in a nutshell, this is what we're going to be building. Right? So as you see here is a jumble of a lot of different screens, which means this application is a little bit complex because there's a lot of screens, which means a lot of moving parts, so which means we have to really think about how we're going to structure this. That way it's not too overwhelming. In fact, I would say that whenever we want to put together an application, it's important to sit down and figure out how many screens you're going to have, what are the functionalities, the basic functionalities, and so forth. So it's really important to have a main idea. In fact, sometimes you can just take a pen and paper and start to jot down these ideas, these screens and so forth, right? That way you have a map per se. If you look at all of these screens at once, of course it's overwhelming because there's too much, right? But let's start small. So what is that we want to do first? Well, first of all, we understand that this app will have a splash screen, which means is the first screen that users will see. Usually has a fast animation, and then it takes you to one of these screens. So the idea is that once we're done with the splash screen, we're going to go to the login screen. If the user has never logged in before, they can go to the create account, and once all of that is done, either way, they will be taken to the main screen. That is the first part, right? From the main screen, that's where we can take users to other places of our application, right? But having this structure here and separate things and think in these terms really, really helps. Now, of course, I have the benefit that I have created this app already, so I know that we have the screens, hence we have the screenshots. So now, because we know there's some complexity to the application because there are different screens, many different screens. Now we have to structure the navigation. I think that is the first thing that we need to look at, so that way we have that structure set up for us. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Back in our code, our project, first of all, let's go to our navigation. We have our navigation, doesn't have anything. Let's add a few things here. So let's create a Kotlin class. The first class I'm going to create, let's call this reader navigation. We're going to get back to it. Let's leave it as it is. And the next class I'm going to create here, it's going to be an enum class. So it's just going to be a list of items and screens as such. We'll get back to that. Okay. Once we have those two classes, again, we're going to get back to those. Let's go to our screens because I want to create those composable first. First of all, I am going to create a file called readersScreen as such. Okay, there it is. And then inside here, I'm going to start creating all of other screens that I will have. So let's start with a few. And usually what happens is for each screen, I like to put inside of a package. The reason being is because a screen can have multiple files. It could have just the screen composable. It could also have the view models attached to that screen. So it's just a good idea to create for each screen that will contain more than one file to put them inside of their own package. So let's start by saying home. Okay, there we have home package. I'm going to right click, create a new one. I'm going to say search. We will need that later. And update. Stats. Login. Details. If we need more, we will get there. All right, so now we're going to create inside of details, for instance, say Command N or right click as I've been doing. I'm going to create another class. It's going to be just a file. That's fine. Let's start. Let's call this reader book details screen, a long name. And here I'm just going to create a composable. Function called book details screen, like this. and we can leave at that. All right, we're going to go back to that. And then for our home, reader, look at the naming here, naming convention, home screen, composable, call this home, and then do the same login. All right, there we go. And for search, say book, reader, book, search, screen, and such. For stats, the same thing. And we're getting there. Update. And there we have it. All right. So now we have a structure. At least we have all the screens, right? We divided all of them into their separate packages, okay? And as your app grows in complexity, this will make more sense, and you will be thankful that you have something like this, a structure like this, because it will be easier to say, okay, I have issues in home screen. Then you can come to screens, you go to home, right? And open up and you can see what's going on. All right, so we are putting, obviously, these are just empty structures at this point. Looks like our reader splash screen doesn't have anything here. We can change that. So add composable. Reader splash screen like this. So everything is now set up, and like I said, all of these screens are empty at this point. They're all composable, they're empty, but we have some sort of a canvas that we can start putting together, that we can start using, especially setting up the navigation in our application. Okay, I'll see you next.